Hello world, it's Godzilla with you once again. Hope you guys are doing well. I know we're just coming off the heels of some big Godzilla vs. King Kong news, kind of, and a clip that was revealed. But we got another big reveal from Shin Ultraman that actually just came out this weekend. A bit of a surprise reveal. We got our first look at the Shin Ultraman official design, I guess. There's also some other interesting Ultraman news that has been coming out involving the Netflix Ultraman Anime, and I'll get to those in a moment. But as for the design reveal, well, there was just a very short, there was just a very simple image revealed showing the whole image, and then with a brief explanation as to where they kind of came up with the design for the image and kind of their reasonings for it, which is actually very interesting. So I'll go over all of that, and I'll also give kind of my opinions on the design as a growing or as a new Ultraman fan. As always, I do apologize for my lack of knowledge. I'm just giving out my basic opinion, but I know that the Ultra experts out there will probably have a different view. And there might be a slight controversy to this design because there are some slight changes. But again, I'll discuss that further on in this video. At a panel this past weekend, Subaraya Productions unveiled a large amount of projects and new things they've got going on, and one of them was Shin Ultraman. Now this film's not supposed to come out till 2021, but they're already giving us the design for Ultraman, which is very interesting. That's kind of how maybe the marketing is done over there. Obviously here we wouldn't expect a design up until like almost a year before, even like 6 months before, but hey, they do things a little differently. But it also makes sense, I think, because they want to kind of start getting people excited about Ultraman. I know with Shin Godzilla, though, we also really didn't get much of a really good look at him up until almost, I want to say 6 months before the film had come out. So they probably are still in the concept art stage at this point. I doubt they have any real visual effects made. This is probably just concept art that they've just taken and mocked up to make it look real. And there are some models that they've built already, but I doubt there's any actual visual effects created yet. And so it's possible they just don't have much at this point and they just want to get a design out there. Subaraya Productions is quite known for being very heavy with the Ultraman marketing and the way that they kind of like unveil each Ultraman and the new design. It's kind of like how they unveil a new Godzilla. You know, it's a very big deal, the design of Ultraman. So they probably thought it would be best to just unveil the design now, and I think that's an interesting choice. I mean, at the same time, you know, it is Ultraman, so you don't expect it to be too different, too radically different. The design is here for us to take a look at and for us to pick apart. So yeah, here's the main design itself, actually, which really, at first glance, is very immediately a classic Ultraman design, with some modifications. The most probably controversial is that the timer on his chest is missing. From what I know, it's like his timer that he's only able to be Ultraman for a certain amount of time, and when things starts blinking, it means that he can't be Ultraman anymore. But I think the rest of the design is very classic, iconic Ultraman. It does make me somewhat think of that Ultraman trailer, I guess, that Ultraman 2016 trailer that came out that was like a full CG Ultraman fighting a giant kaiju in the city. And I always wonder whatever happened to that project, if they took some of the assets from that and put into this, because it does remind me of that, but it's still its own thing. It's still very different, and it is very reminiscent of a guy in a suit, like, but it also feels like a giant. It doesn't look like a guy in a suit necessarily, almost. It does look more alien-esque, like a giant being. I'm going to guess this image is CGI though. I don't think it's an actual suit. They're probably going the same route like they did with Shin Godzilla to use a lot more CGI this time. And they've come so far with their visual effects. I mean, I've always said that Shin Godzilla had very impressive visual effects. The best I've ever seen in a Toho film. I remember being blown away in the theaters when I saw Shin Godzilla. I think it's also interesting, it's just such a simple image. You know, he's not in a fighting pose, he's not fighting a kaiju, nothing. It's just, here's Ultraman. So again, I'm not really sure what the idea was behind this marketing decision to just put it out there like this. That was my first glance. I'm like, oh, this is okay. They're just showing us, here's Ultraman. I expected a little bit more pizzazz, I think. Hideaki Anno, who is the writer and I think also going to be a producer on this film, and he was the director and writer of Shin Godzilla. His interest in using the original artwork by Toru Narita, who was one of the original Ultraman designers, and he created this drawing in 1983, and Hideaki Anno was very interested in using this as kind of the basis for their Ultraman design. I believe the name of it is, like, in English, the incarnation of truth, justice, and beauty. So it's an interesting choice, and as you can see in the design, of course, the timer is missing, but it's still very iconic looking Ultraman. But that's kind of their explanation as to why they chose to make Ultraman look like this, and I think that's kind of cool. You know, it does remind me kind of what they do in other productions now, where they kind of go back to original concept art or other concept art that was never used. You know, they did that in Star Wars, in Force Awakens, in the new Star Wars movies, new Star Wars shows. They use a lot of the concept art that was like kind of changed for the final film, and they go back to the original concept art and use that as a basis. And so it's really cool. So I like that idea to go back and kind of use an original art design for Ultraman that was kind of never used, and use that as your basis. Use that as your basis for the new Ultraman. So I think that's really cool that they chose to do that. And so they also unveiled the actual concept model, or maquette, I think is the term, that shows the actual sculpt they created for Ultraman, for Shin Ultraman, in color and in white, just to kind of show that how they kind of came up with the sculpt and concept. And if you look at the sculpt, it's a bit more humanoid than I think the final image will be, but that's also because this is a sculpt. I definitely think the final version of what you'll see on screen will be much more with VFX than a guy in a suit or animatronics or something like that. I think it definitely would be more alien looking. And that's the thing, we have not seen Ultraman move. You know, the one thing is seeing him just standing there. Another thing is like how he will actually move and act on screen, and will he be more alien-like, or will he appear more like a guy in a suit? So we'll have to see how they decide to pull that off for the final production of the film. And of course, at this point, you know, we already know that the Takumi Saito will be starring as Ultraman. I'm not very familiar with a lot of Japanese actors, but you know, I'm sure that he's going to be a good pick. With Shin Godzilla, I had no idea of who the cast was, but they did a really good job with the film. So I have my faith in him as well to pull off a very good performance. And the film is set to come out in Japan in 2021. At this point, I don't know if that's going to be a summer release or not, but I'm going to guess if we're following the same route as Shin Godzilla, the same formula, then I definitely would expect an August release. I think that's when Shin Godzilla came out. I think what's most interesting about the new design is that it's so close to Ultraman, whereas when I first heard this was going to be a Shin Ultraman thing, I thought, well, with Shin Godzilla, you know, it looks like Godzilla, yes, but it's very different at the same time and unique, and it's very classic Godzilla, but not at the same time, whereas like Shin Ultraman, he looks just like Ultraman to me. So it has a very classic look, which I wasn't expecting almost. I was expecting something kind of crazy and weird, like for Shin Godzilla. And of course, still related to Ultraman, there was news unveiled about Ultraman on Netflix, the Ultraman Netflix series, about season 2, which will come out in April of 2020, for at least for Tokyo Television. I'm not sure what that will mean for Netflix, especially Netflix overseas, if that's going to come out at the same time, but fingers crossed. Then I'm assuming we should get a trailer very soon, and definitely expect a reaction. If you've watched my reviews of the Ultraman Netflix series, you'd know I quite enjoyed how it ended, and I'm very much looking forward to a second season. In order to promote the second season, Subaraya Productions is going to be putting together what they call a PV. I guess it's a short live-action production featuring the Ultraman suits from the show, I'm guessing. So that'll be really cool if they can pull it off. I would really dig that, because watching the Ultraman Netflix series, I was like, I want to see these suits in live action, and I'm excited for that. And I just want a trailer so I can see, so we can get to see, you know, what's actually the second season is going to focus on. Also, I know nothing about it because I didn't read the manga, And so I have nothing kind of spoiled for me. I don't really know what happens next, and I'm kind of waiting on the trailer to come out so I kind of get an idea of what's coming up. It just gets me excited for more Ultraman content, and it gets me excited for season 2. And I hope they make it really cool, and I don't know what the short is going to be about, if it's the three of them fighting each other, or they're taking on, you know, another alien life form, or they're taking on the mercenaries, or the agents. I don't know. I'm very interested to see how they're going to pull off, because in the Netflix anime, you know, they can do all these tricks and moves, and they've got all these cool effects, and I'm not sure how that's going to translate well into live action. For now, yes, we're moving with Shin Ultraman. This was unexpected, really, so early a reveal. I don't even know if they've started production yet. I don't think production starts till 2020. Depending on when it comes out in 2021, I don't know when we can expect a Shin Ultraman trailer. If we can expect one in 2020, like a teaser trailer at the very end of 2020, maybe. But 2021 is going to be shaping up to be an interesting year. So I'll keep you guys posted on Shin Ultraman, as well as other kaiju films as always, and of course the Ultraman Netflix series. So yes, if you guys like this video, like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. Let me know your thoughts on the new Ultraman, the Shin Ultraman design, in the comments below. I always love to hear, especially from the Ultraman fans, the hardcore fans, like, do you like this design? Okay guys, that's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!